Hello, once again. Welcome to Herd Immunity News. I'm Marcus Botza. Today we have the great pleasure in welcoming back Dave Atherton. Dave Atherton is a regular guest on TalkTV. He's normally on the James Whale Show. You can get him actually this Friday. We will leave all the links to his site. If you're not on his Twitter page, you must get on there at Dave Atherton 20, Dave Atherton 20, and he's getting hundreds of millions of views monthly with his fantastic content. But without further ado, can I just say, Dave Atherton, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, Marcus. Marcus, and thanks very much for inviting me on the show. Much appreciated. Nice to be back.
Well, it's great to have you back, and I'm kind of in a sort of pub surroundings here. So it's for Christmas, obviously. I'm going to
Indeed.
have a
Cheers.
drink.
I've got my glass of wine, and
we
can you smoke
away.
in your pub, by the way?
You can do anything in this pub. It's a free house. So, and it is like what we used to have in this country. It was called free speech, I think it was called. Yeah. It's a long time ago now.
But look, it's freedom.
Great. Freedom, yes. As old William Wallace used to scream. I don't think William Wallace would be too popular now, unless he was wearing his kilt and he'd be mistaken for a woman. And then he could do what the hell he wants.
Exactly.
Anyway, but without further ado, Dave, can I just let's get on to the elephant in the room. It's not so much the elephant in the room, and that's immigration. Mass, unlimited, unfettered immigration. Today in the news, we've had Suella Braverman's speech, the former Home Secretary, outgoing former Home Secretary, and she's got up there, and in a nutshell, she said to fellow Conservatives that if they cannot get a handle on the mass immigration numbers that are come out this week of 750,000 net migration, if they can't get a handle on that, the best Sunak and the rest can hope for is complete annihilation at the next election. A white flag's kind of been raised as the new Home Secretary, James Cleverly's got up and said that the best that they're going to do is around 400,000 year in, year out. What are your thoughts on this situation?
Right. We need a change of regime. I'm a lot. I voted for the Conservative Party in the general elections from 1979 onwards, apart from 1997, where I just simply abstained. And I say 1997, I passively, aggressively abstained because I thought after 13 years, or however long the Conservative Party had been in power, it'd run out of steam. Oh, but then again, 13 years of Tony Blair was a bit too much as well. Anyway, but that's by the by. I'm so frustrated with the Conservative Party. I want to see it destroyed. Passive aggressive in 1997. I want to see it destroyed. I want to see it be built from the ground up again. Now, if it's kind of a mirror of the Reform Party, or the Reform Party becomes the Conservative Party, I'd be very much for it. Well, people say, well, all the one Tory wets, and if you are a right wing Conservative, which people will object to tax cuts, which people will object to more law and order. Which people won't object to criminals being banged up for a longer amount of time, and also a robust attitude to immigration. If that's the Tory right, what does the Tory left have to offer? There is a huge. What happens is between 25 and 35, 10% of people change their vote from Labour to Conservative. And the medium to long term, it's looking quite good from the point of view that people will become more small c conservative, and they'll be wanting small c conservative policies. I think the immigration is the crux of the vast majority of our problems at the moment. But really, the only thing is that if they get absolutely stuffed and down to 100, 150 seats, or whatever the figure is, it will take them 2 or 3 terms to get back in, as what happened in 1997. That's the bad news. But I think 5 years of Keir Starmer, I think a proper Conservative Party will have a reasonable shot at getting back in again. And I think some people will hold their nose and vote Conservative. What I'm hoping to do is, if I go hold of a list of all the Conservative MPs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write all the names down, good, bad, and indifferent. You know, the red wall MPs are really good, like your Lee Andersons, you know, and Brendan Clark. What's his name? They're really good. There are, you know, if you are a proper small C Conservative and want small C Conservative policies, we should be voting. You know, people should be voting for the red wall MPs. No, it's the Lib Dem light people in the home counties that really annoy me. I've forgotten her name now, but there was the MP for Stroud. She's on Hansard. She's on record as saying she was pleased that the crime that the migrants in the hotel that were housed there, the crime that they were committing was being covered up. It was, you know, she said it in plain English in Parliament. You know, these are the kind of Lib Dem-like people who should be nowhere near a Conservative ticket. People like, you know, Tobias Ellwood, you know, the guy who was never answered my question when it came to the 77th Brigade spying on the British public. Did he know about it? Was he involved in it? And did he actually lead it? You know, I've asked these questions on Twitter to him a number of different times. I've yet to get an answer.
The lady's name was Kelly Tolhurst.
Thank you very much.
That's okay.
So that's the one.
Let's name and shame. Let's name and shame.
Yeah, let's name and shame. Let's name and shame. So
I'll leave a mention to her when this goes out on Twitter. I'll definitely leave a mention to her because these are the people who are Conservatives in name only.
Yeah, no, yeah, the Tinos, you know, all the Chinos, whatever you want to call them. You know,
the Americans call them rhinos, don't they?
They do. The Republicans,
they call them rhinos.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's immigration is the key policy, and it's the key topic that it's really led from Brexit to the 2019 election. You can talk about economics all you want, but with mass unlimited unfettered immigration, it affects every single policy in this country. Our infrastructure, our housing, education, the NHS waiting list to 8 million.
Prisons.
We're pouring petrol onto the fire, even with the best will in the world to genuine refugees. We are not in a position to facilitate them. We can't take any more. You talked about and mentioned reform as maybe being the replacement of the Conservatives, Dave. There's in the mix of all that is Nigel Farage. Like him, loathe him, love him, he still probably is the number one politician of the right in many people's eyes. Is that
I agree? Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
What prospects are there? Sorry, Dave. What prospects do you see the likelihood of Nigel Farage ever rejoining the Conservative Party?
I think there's a sporting chance. Certainly there's a good chance he's considering it. But I get the impression within the Conservative Party that they would rather stab their eyes with red hot pins, you know, than have Nigel Farage as their leader. I really do think that they'd be that petty and fall on their swords before admitting him in as Conservative leader. My instinct is I've got no background information or inside information on it, but I think his stint in the jungle is he's warming himself up for the next general election. I did read that if he stood as the leader of the Reform Party, the Reform Party could get as much as 20 or 25% of the votes, whereby you're probably looking at either the conservative candidate will lose, and probably there might be a few seats that Reform might actually win.
Right.
And as a start off, that's probably a good. That's a start anyway. But the point is, the Reform won't become a government.
No.
For 10, 20 years,
Sure.
Probably 15, 20 years is probably the mark. But the point is, in the sense that UKIP never really did well in general election, but did particularly well in the proportional representation European elections. Yes. They're sort of the terrier. They're snapping at the Conservative heels, week in, week out. And the only reason that Cameron could allow referendum on a membership of the EU was because he was seeing that the general election support was draining from the Conservative Party to UKIP.
Indeed. I mean, I think looking back to I think it was the 2015 or thereabouts election, general election, they did get
sure.
They did get a huge percent of the vote. I think it was 4 million votes, and only I don't think they got an MP, or maybe Mark Reckless sneaked in, whereas the SNP got about 50 odd MPs. That's the whole farce of the borders. But I mean, that Nigel is a hero to people on the right because there is no one else recognisable with his skill of motivating people and getting them on.
And the working class as well. He's greatly admired by the working classes.
Exactly, because he's relatable. You can put him in a room full of punters from anywhere in the land, and he's more or less, going to get on. Maybe not on Portobello Road, but places like that, darling. The sort of dinner sets, the hoi polloi of.
He's excluded from polite society, isn't he?
Yes, Bloomsbury and that sort of thing, darling. He's not going to be welcome around there. But we interviewed, Herd Immunity News interviewed Mr. Tice. Now, Richard's doing the best that I think he can, and he is a regular, of course, on television on GB News. He was formerly one of your colleagues on
Talk Radio,
Talk Radio.
Talk Radio TV, sorry,
However,
TV and radio.
Him, Ben Habib, those are, and Anne Winnecombe, when she shows up on television, they give it all they've got, and they are the Conservatives, they are the new Conservatives. But looking at the last by-election results, Dave, they're still around 3 to 4%. That's where they're sitting at right now. In the polls, they're at 10%, 11%, and we've put it to them that they need to see more people crossing over from the Conservative Party, but they need to see more people voting for them, because where they are right now isn't going to get them many seats. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. But they had a sporting chance of winning Peterborough. But I'm told there's a bag full of votes bought in at the last moment. Yes. No proof. Well, it's all speculation. It's all allegation.
Yeah.
But Mohammed apparently was a busy boy. Is my understanding.
That is true. That's with the mail-in ballots and the postal ballots.
I know.
They're up for. If you have access, which is easily done, to go, and we're not recommending anybody does this, of course, but you go and get an obituary column. Of all the deaths that have occurred since the last election, and you sit with that on one side, and on the other side you've got the voters list, and you go through them. If you were to send in votes off those, God bless them, deceased, no one needs to know where that came from.
Sure,
it all have to be cross-checked.
I know. To answer your question, Reform will struggle to get MPs. They'll probably get quite a few seconds. They might become agonisingly close. They might win the odd seat here and there, but the point is, what like UKIP was doing, and what Reform can do is they will take so much of the Conservative vote, they'll turn moderately safe seats into marginals, and certainly just above marginals into safe Labour seats. Reform has the ability to completely defenestrate and gut Conservative Party MP offerings. But and one thing I do disagree with, if Suella Braverman becomes Prime Minister, or even Kemi Badenoch, but her star's fading with me at the moment, but I'll come back to that in a second. But if Suella Braverman becomes leader and she has a full reign to implement her policies, I think the Conservative Party can be saved. But Rishi Sunak is just so weak, pathetic. He was described by Jacob Rees-Mogg as effete. That's the guy's not a leader; he's an accountant. And he should go. I cannot see how having Rishi Sunak as Prime Minister is going to help the Conservative Party at the next election, when a fresh face that represents the small c Conservative strain of opinion in this country becomes Prime Minister. Apparently, I did read that Kemi Badenoch. Well, first of all, Kemi Badenoch bottled with the civil service over scrapping all the EU rules and regulations and red tape. She bottled it.
Yeah.
So, and I did read, although it might be a scandalous rumor, she's Michael Gove's bitch.
Yeah.
I've read that as well. I say bitch in the sense of, he basically has it undue influence over. But if you're a small C centre type person, it's a very, very depressing time. The only bright thing I can think of is Nigel Farage returning to politics full time.
I think so. And looking at Sunak just for a moment, while people talk about he's a manager, well, it's a bloody poor definition of a manager, because as it's transpired, for anyone that didn't know today, the Rwanda plan that's going to be the deterrent for all these tens of thousands of illegal migrants that cross the channel. It's going to house 100 people, Dave. And it's cost them, this great manager, Mr. Sunak, this financial whiz, it's cost the British taxpayer 150 million for a maximum of 100 people. And they can also send people from Rwanda to the UK, and there's no set limit for the numbers they can send. We're also going to have to pay at least £160,000 for each person that we send over there if they commit a crime while they're in Rwanda. If they get a parking ticket, they can be sent back to Abaliti. If they commit rape, they'll be sent back to Abaliti. It's not good.
No, it's the complete uselessness of our immigration policies laid bare in your description there. It is so frustrating that we are like a ship, in a hurricane force wind out on the seas, with no rudder or steering wheel, and we're completely at the mercy of lefty lawyers, European Court of Human Rights, limp-wristed Tory wets, and the civil service. It is so frustrating that probably the vast majority in fact, it is the vast majority of the people in this country feel completely disenfranchised, completely impotent when it comes to dealing with immigration. No, I've chased opinion polls back to the early 1950s, post Windrush. Every single opinion poll I've read was around between 60 and 75% for wanting less immigration, and they want people sent back. I remember in the 1970s, there was a Conservative Party conference, and the people were chanting from the floor, "Send them back."
Oh, God bless them.
I know.
God bless them.
I don't know. Obviously, the government's particularly good at propaganda and the dark arts of psyops and things like that. But I think the Saturday afternoon demonstrations, Palestine and the Hamas demonstration, I think might have been a big wake-up call for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think I went to the cenotaph on the Saturday, on Armistice Day, the 11th, and I was a little bit late, and most of the demonstration had gone on. But I was walking down Whitehall, and this policeman stopped me from going any further. I said, "Okay, fine, I'll wait my turn until I get in." So I'll take a few snaps, and pay my respects. And I said, "While I'm here, if I chanted 'Gas the Jews,' would you arrest me?" And he said, "Yes." "Okay, if I chant 'From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free,' will you arrest me?" "No." And I said to him, "You do know they mean exactly the same thing, effectively, calling for the death of Jews."
Yeah.
Blank look, silence. I had to explain to him it's the sea. The river is the River Jordan, and the sea is the Mediterranean Sea. They run parallel to each other, and all the Israelis and Jews and Arabs and Christians in Israel have to be exterminated for them to get their land back. I think he's quite shocked. I think his inspector had giving them all soothing words and things like that. So I went down there, took me snaps, and went home. And I didn't see any trouble down there, but I think the trouble went on a bit earlier. But the point I was getting to was, I think people are seeing the folly of mass immigration, particularly from, should we say, euphemistically, the Middle East and North Africa. But let's not fanny about. These people do not share our values. They do not share our enlightened free speech, freedom of the individual. They've got a book that tells you exactly what to think, what to say, and how to conduct your life, both at a secular and a religious level. If Allah was so powerful and omnipotent and all-seeing, if you can't pray at 5 o'clock, I think obviously Muslims are expected to pray 5 times a day. It's because it's a little bit awkward. You're out on the street, and there's nowhere convenient. I'm sure Allah will forgive you for not wanting to, miss out on your 5 o'clock prayer. But of course, it also says what I think people also saw as well. What a bunch of bullies they are as well. This wasn't a case of let's have a face-to-face, man-to-man discussion, in polite and respectful, tones. This was, I want to do you damage. Shut up, so and so. I think some people will be red-pilled about that. People will understand where they're coming from, and perhaps they will work out very, very begrudgingly that Tommy Robinson was right all along.
All of that is true. And that kind of brings me on to Geert Wilders, the new leader. On a positive note. I mean,
I know. My heart is
highlighted. But Dave, look, you've highlighted the two-tier policing. The police themselves, as civil servants, are obviously carrying out the memorandums that are being handed down to them by the likes of, in London, Sadiq Khan, who basically runs the Met, even though Sir Mark Rowley is as wet as any lettuce that you'll find at the back of the shop at 3 a.m. These guys are being told, the police have been told to turn a blind eye. There was recently, during that same period, there was a couple of lads with England flags. I think it was during the World Cup. And they were told to, please put away your St. George's cross because it may incite, it may inflame. Hang on a minute, lads. You're meant to police without fear or favour. That is both fear and favour. And while you've seen the police taking the knee, before we get on to Geert Wilders, you've also seen the courts taking the knee to turning off a blind eye.
Well, indeed,
These crimes that are going on relentlessly.
Well, from what I've read, it all goes back to Tony Blair when he first got elected in 1997. Right. I think in the first year of his reign as Prime Minister, he passed literally 4,000 laws. Oh. That was a man in a hurry. And those laws, mostly, like the Human Rights Act, which stimmy our ability to deport illegal immigrants, it all goes back to him. Him and his missus, matrix chambers and things like that. Yeah. But the thing is, the Conservative Party had 13 bloody years to fix the problem.
Exactly.
And they've done F all, So, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
I was going to say, under Blair, Dave, I hate to bring this up, but he would actually deport up to 40,000 illegals every single year. He had a better record, even though he was the instigator.
Sure.
The Conservatives, since David Cameron have taken over, David Cameron, who's back now, of course. Sure. Lord Cameron, please forgive me. Lord Cameron, the unelected, unaccountable Foreign Secretary.
Sure.
Blair actually had a better handle on mass immigration than the Conservatives have done.
Well, I think one of his Home Secretaries was David Blunkett.
It was.
Yeah, indeed. He was actually quite a sound guy. I think he knew. I think he knew what was going on, and he knew. But then again, the other side of the coin, though, it was Blair who wanted to rub our noses in diversity.
No, well.
It's all right. It's all right bidding out 40,000 people a year, but when you're allowing in 500,000 people a year, in substitution, it's a waste of time. and there was that, the former Labour advisor who said that, Tony Blair scoured. The phrase I've read is scoured the world looking for people wanted to move to Britain, and the reason being was he wanted to rub the right noses, in diversity, and I think it was 1997. 97% of the population was white. It was,
Yes.
97%. And
if you're going to have more diversity, that means you must have less of something else. And on our current trajectory, placement is guaranteed. It's not as what was his name? Sajid Javid said, "So what?" That was his comment to when someone brought up the demographics. The great Mark Steen. I'm sure.
No. Sajid Javid said it to me.
Oh, really? Was it to you?
Yeah. He said the context wasn't immigration. Oh, actually, no, you are right. No, he's used it twice. Sajid Javid said, "So what?" to immigration, and twice. He also said it once to me in a tweet, which went viral.
Yes.
When I questioned his COVID vaccine policy. So, sorry, no, you're right, and you did say it. Right. Somebody else who lives in his own little bubble and his own little world there. Well, the good news is on immigration and two-tier policing.
Oh, please do tell. Good news. Let's hear it.
The Overton window has shifted vastly to the right. What we're allowed to say, right, and what we can get away with, has shifted to the right. When Suella Braverman gets up in Parliament and says immigration is doing us damage and a lot of them are criminals. We've now got our pink slip to say what we like. And also,
it's undeniable, Dave. It's undeniable because we've never seen anything like it. Sorry to interrupt you, but even from Mr. Cleverly the other day, he declared that from the 100,000 care workers that we got over in the last 12 months, well, guess what? They brought 120,000 dependents, 90,000 of which are on benefits, only 25% of which are working in the first place. So please don't tell me they bring more to this country than they take. They take more, infinitely more.
Things like, Pret, or you go to a coffee shop, or McDonald's. They are functions to me. I want to get myself a burger. I want to get myself a cup of coffee. I don't care if I go in there, I press a few buttons, stick in my card. I want Americano with a bit of milk in it and some sugar. Tick, pay for it, and there's a machine that comes out the other end. It's a function to me. Okay, if I go out to dinner with a missus, I want to be waited on hand and foot. But when it comes to there's that thing about the woman that said, who was going to serve us our sandwiches in Pret? There was on Question Time. I don't care. If it comes out machine, I just want to get I'll grab your sandwich and go to the office and get on with my work. Yeah. There is a mechanized way of dealing with things like this. They have to resort to cheap labor. I'm sorry. This one of the things that is never discussed on immigration is that we, as a sovereign country, if I wanted to live and work in America, they tell me to. The answer would be no. So, same Australia, New Zealand, France, Germany. I'd be told to go away.
Yes.
So I'm sorry. Britain's nice. Britain's got benefits in every sense of the world. I'm sorry, we don't want you. I'm sorry, we're overcrowded. The price of property in this country is appalling. Young people can't afford to rent, let alone buy. We've got the vicious circle of low birth rate, get more immigrants in, which leads to higher property prices, which leads to less babies, and we need more immigrants. It's a vicious circle. It's a Mexican firing squad for us.
Fire a bit more data at that argument to back you up and support you, we've got 300,000 people. That's a conservative estimate. Are
Yeah.
homeless. That's no fixed abode.
I
And
think
we
it's
have
271,000 is the estimate.
well,
Yeah.
sorry,
Not far off.
sorry, but the Home Office figures, you can take with a bucket of salt. Really,
Yeah, sure.
It's
Yeah.
this is from Shelter, the homeless
Yeah.
charity. Obviously, they're allegedly putting the statistics a little bit higher, so maybe
Sure.
people can
Yeah.
chuck in an extra 50p, or if they're in
Yeah.
Scotland, 1 pence, because that's the generosity of the Scots. We've never changed. But then on top of that, you've got
And you want change.
oh, we want a halfpenny back from that, of course. But listen, then you've got 8.5 million people on the NHS waiting list. So
Yeah.
my point is, if you're one of those people who want more migrants to come here because they're fleeing from war-torn France, Dave, then you must admit and make that sacrifice that more people in this country will die because they're not going to get their elective surgeries, they're not going to get their cancer treatment, they're not going to be screened, they're not going to get their home, they're not going to get the care that they wanted to and they've paid for, and generations of their family have fought and died for someone just rocking up from overseas, who you know nothing about, who, I mean, England and Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Wales, we have become, have we not, the safe haven for every fugitive on the run.
Well, absolutely. On the MI5 watch list are 43,000 Muslims. 43,000. It's not a couple of geezers down a boozer, knocking out some dodgy facts. There are 43,000, and there's probably a lot more. 43,000 who, given the opportunity, would make a bomb and set it off somewhere in London or Manchester or Edinburgh or Glasgow, Belfast, Cardiff.
Manchester.
Yeah, with the idea of killing people. I think it was Kelvin McKenzie said that apparently at the moment MI5 are foiling one plot a week. So every year there's something like 50 odd plots, in line with the Manchester Arena bombing. And MI5, to be fair to MI5, they actually turned around and said, stop it. You're just increasing our workload here. There will. I think MI5 will eventually not be able to keep up with things, and there will be atrocities in this country.
Sorry, Dave, we're past that stage. We're well past that stage. The prisons are full. The courts are backed up. The 95% of the Met's time is not spent policing the streets. It's spent behind a desk. There's only ever 5%, and any of the coppers, a lot of them
policing tweets.
Well, this is it. These statistics we got from an interview with Howard Cox, the London Mayor candidate for the Reform Party. Ben Habib's another person we've interviewed.
Sure.
Come out and said that.
Yeah.
The bright note in the couple of minutes we've got left was on Gert Wilders, to bring you back to Gert, because
sure.
What do you think about the Dutch putting this man in charge in the Netherlands?
Is he in charge? I'm asking that question tongue in cheek. I think he will be rebuffed, and I think he will have his wings clipped by the establishment in the Netherlands and by the EU. If he does reach my dreams of going to some way of dealing with his immigration problem, it's probably a litmus test for the whole of Europe. I saw in Amsterdam a whole bunch of Muslims came out on the street protesting. They got their prayer mats out, with the biggest FU you can think of. There will be, if Geert Wilders has his way, there will be massive internal. Choose your words carefully, Dave. There will be notable civil unrest. And it may go well beyond that as well.
Sure.
But to my mind, that is all the excuse that Geert Wilders needs.
Yes.
If it's broadly speaking unprovoked, this might be a good time to deal with the situation. The Swedes are so, even with the Swedish Democrats, the Swedes are still a bunch of, excuse my French, pussies.
Yes.
They're not dealing with the problem. I'm sorry, we are now. We will have to declare a state of emergency in most European countries, which will give dictatorial powers to the government to deal with a particular situation. We can do it now, where we will win reasonably easily, or we will have to wait. Or if we do it in 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future, we may lose. I think dealing with it now and dealing with the consequences of the civil unrest consequences now, I think is far preferable to, frankly, I don't want to sound alarmist, effectively civil war.
Indeed.
Yeah. But no, you guarantee nobody in the Western world has got the ball to do that. It's one of the, it's like my analogy is Winston Churchill in the 1930s. He warned about the rise of Adolf Hitler, the Nazi Party in Germany, and everyone was saying, well, Adolf's a nice chap and he's got some good policies and things like that. That's the analogy. Winston Churchill warned us. Nothing was ever done about it. And we paid the price. 55 million people died in the Second World War. If we dealt with it in the 1930s, it would have been painful, but the outcome could have been a lot better for Europe throughout. But no one's got the backbone. No one's got the spirit. No one's Nigel Farage or Baroness Thatcher. We're just stuck with a bunch of useless, middle of the road nobodies.
That's very true, and it's the civil service, the courts, the European courts. They block so much that we want to push through. We still haven't got Brexit. Coming up for 8 years.
It's getting worse.
Decision. It is getting worse. Sunak is in my view, is a placed minister, not a prime minister. He couldn't even beat Liz Truss, God bless her, in a head-to-head. The Conservative membership were taken out completely. And now you have someone a bit like Keir Starmer, Dave, that's more interested in the goings-on of Davos than he is with the goings-on of Westminster. And that's why people have become so jaded and faded with politics. A lot of your great followers, the 120,000 of them, however many it is now, as you're sludging up. Dave Atherton 20, by the way. Dave Atherton 20, please check out Dave's work. Got a couple of minutes left. They are frustrated beyond belief. On the horizon, there is a Reform Party. Fantastic. They say the right thing.
Sure.
But it's getting them in. And once they're in, it's activating anything. If Dominic Raab can be ousted for throwing a tomato into a waste paper bin, then we're in trouble.
We are. Rishi Sunak had an opportunity to turn around to Simon Case, the Chief Secretary.
Yes.
I'm not sacking Dominic Raab. If you want to go, you can. But instead, he kissed his whatever it was, kissed his ring, and said, "Simon, I'm going to sack Dominic." Yeah, ring as in.
Yes, not in the John sense.
Exactly. Yes, in the biblical sense. Yes.
Yes.
He had a chance. He had a chance to sort out the civil service and show who was boss, and he completely and utterly failed.
He did. Look, what have you got coming up? We've punted that you're going to be on TalkTV this Friday from 11 till 1 with the great James Whale. Will James actually be in the studio?
No, he's not. He's got he's got particularly bad cancer. He does a show Saturday evening, 7 o'clock. Really good. He does it with
Ash.
Ash, yeah. Oh, his Twitter's virtual Ash. I don't know anybody by their names these days. I go by their Twitter handles. So I bumped into Kevin O'Sullivan of obviously the reception at TalkTV, and I was Kevin O'Sullivan. But Kevin O'Sullivan, I said I'm Dave Allison. You're TV Kev, aren't you? That's his Twitter handle, TV Kev. It's appalling how dehumanizing,
I know that's what we become now. These
Yeah.
Virtual characters. But look, everybody should check you out on that. Check out your website because you
Yeah,
always
sure.
drop the best. You drop the best information on what's going on, not on mass immigration, but also on illegal migrant crimes. That is
Sure.
helping massively to wake people up to what's going on in our country. And who knows, we may in a few years' time get a result like they did over in the Netherlands with Geert Wilders. But I think sadly, it will become war, then peace. None of us want to see violence on the streets. We want it to be a political war done with our speeches and our tongues.
Frankly, I can't see that happening. I think Geert Wilders will be a dissenting Giorgia Meloni
Yes.
of Italy. He won't be able to do anything. He'd be stymied by the EU. You know, you know, she will jump off a roof later on. You know,
Yeah. Merry
it's
Christmas,
so
everyone. Merry
I know,
Christmas.
I know. Yeah,
Dave's Christmas. What's your Christmas message for Herd Immunity News and the fantastic Dave Atherton followers? What's your Christmas message for this year?
Right.
Going into 2024. Come on, just a couple.
Keep fighting. We'll win eventually.
Dave, that's beautifully said. Keep fighting. Never shall we surrender.
Yeah.
We shall fight them on the beaches, etc., etc. Look,
and
Dave,
all the landing grounds.
Everywhere. Thank you very much, sir. Well, listen, Dave Atherton, or should I say Dave Atherton 20, thank you very much for appearing on Herd Immunity News once again. Have a fantastic Christmas. I hope you drink yourself into oblivion, sir, and you have a good old smoke.
I'm off to a good start. I'm getting in practice.
Well, we will continue on that note as well. But listen, great chatting with you again, sir. And we'll see you in the new year.
I'm around. Don't worry.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Bye.